soloing without using scales and arpeggios. My name's Nolan, and in this series of videos I'm answering your questions on playing gypsy jazz guitar. And I got a question from Andrea, who was asking about techniques and ideas to use with improvising and soloing which weren't related to scales and arpeggios. And this is a very common question I get, and the common problem is that we learn the scales that fit over the chords, and we learn the arpeggios which fit over the chords, and then when we get to a session or we play music, it kind of sounds like we're just playing scales, or sounds like we're just playing arpeggios, and that's a very common thing. So there's lots of ways you can solo without using scales and arpeggios, using licks for example. But in this video I just want to show you one idea which I was actually just teaching to a student the other day who had that exact same question. And it's something which I call bouncing, and it's a rhythmical device where you pick two notes from each chord that you're going to solo over, and you be creative rhythmically with them, and you solo like that. I'll give you an example. So if we're playing over, say we're playing over a minor blues in G minor, which is a 12-bar progression in G minor. You got G minor, you got C minor, you got E flat 7, and you got D7, right? And then you got G minor. So if you were going to solo with arpeggios, you'd be kind of using arpeggios. If you're going to play with scales, you're going to be kind of like, playing scales. Now this thing, you pick two notes from each chord, like I say. So the two notes we're going to pick, the first notes I would pick, for example, I'm just making this up, would be D to G, okay? So not even in the minor tonality, but just D, which is the fifth, and then tonic, which is the G. So even before we go to the progression, if I'm using this technique over the G minor, which is going like, I would just play like this. I'm not using a lot of stuff here. I'm just using two notes from the G minor, but I'm playing it in a kind of rhythmical, groovy way. And this is just kind of proof, and it's something which I use a lot when I'm soloing, that groove and rhythm can go a long way and sidestep the whole thing of scales and arpeggios. So when I go to C minor, I'm basically going to pick another two notes or change one of the notes to fit to that harmony. So C minor, you might go, that's G minor, you might go, there's the E flat, the C minor, then you might go back to the G minor. Then when you go to the E flat 7, for example, or even just keeping the G, you go D7, then back to. I'll give you an example. A couple of choruses of minor blues using this technique, and then we'll kind of drill down on exactly what's happening there. So 2, 3, 4. So over G minor, C minor, G minor, E flat 7, D7, again, G minor, up to C minor, it's that kind of idea. And once you get into the kind of flow of doing that when you're soloing, you can go a long way. So technically or harmonically, I'm just picking two notes out of the chord, whatever it is, and then basically usually I'm trying to just move one or two of the notes to fit to the new chord. So for example, from G minor to C minor I was going, then I thought, oh, I can go, that fits C minor, back to G minor, that also fits G minor, D flat 7, D7. You can see. So I'm not thinking arpeggios, scales, not even really thinking licks. I'm just thinking this, kind of sometimes call it a bouncing idea. It's kind of bouncing between two notes in a rhythmical way, which sounds groovy. Let's take another tune and apply that same technique. So if I'm going to play over, just think of a major tune like All of Me, E7, A7 going to D minor. Okay, so that's the first few chords of All of Me. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See that using that technique, I was just picking 2 notes out of the C. I picked, which is kind of powerful, strong notes within that chord. The G and the E, the root and the third. Then we went to E7. I just went. I thought, oh, that's good. That fits the E7. And then for the A7, then D minor. So it's a really good exercise to go through the standards that you know, the tunes that you know, and just kind of think, okay, I'm just going to play 2 notes per chord and bounce between them in a rhythmical way. And then it just gives you another dimension to your soloing. And like Andrea was asking, you know, scales and arpeggios, just kind of sounding like scales and arpeggios, which is cool, but this will give it a complete other tack and something which can really make your soloing more interesting. So there you go. Let's just try it yourself. I think it'll really work for you, and you can make it as simple as you like. So again, pick 2 notes from each chord, bounce between them, and just make it groovy, and see if you can get through the changes. It's going to sound great. So there you go. If you've got a question yourself about playing Gypsy Jazz guitar, then don't hesitate to send me an email at questions@gypsyjazzsecrets.com. I'll be happy to make you a video. Apart from that, just like the video, share it with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you soon in another video.